Folks, I just wanted to bring you this video real quick right now. We got a big update from President Trump on his strategy going forward with his budget. Obviously, we know that most of Trump's domestic policies and his initiatives that he wants are going to be implemented through the budget, through the reconciliation process. And obviously, we know the House GOP, they wanted to put one big, beautiful bill together and push, border, taxes, spending, energy, defense, all in one bill. And then the Senate kind of wanted to split it up. They wanted to have a energy and defense bill right off the bat here, and then implement a tax bill later on down the road. I, from the start, did not think it was a good idea to have the tax bill later down the road. I was okay with two bills, but they needed to be passed by May. It needs to be done. So that's why I think just because we need to get Trump's domestic policy enacted for the 2026 midterms, we need to make sure that this gets through. We got some information to dive into, but if you're new here, drop down below, hit that subscribe button, make sure you never miss another video from us in the future. But let's just get into it here. So he had put out a post on Truth Social, but I'm just going to kind of finish up what my thought was there, is really Trump needs to have his domestic agenda implemented ASAP because we need it. It can take a year for it to fully jumpstart and for us to see economic results domestically, whether that's in lower prices, lower taxes, whatever it is. We need to be able to see that by the time the 2026 midterms come around. Because if we don't get it passed till late this year, it may not have kickstarted enough by that election. You look back to 2017 even. Trump passed his tax cut, Trump's Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which didn't get passed quick enough where it wasn't able to kickstart by the next midterm election. Ended up losing 40 seats in the election. Same thing back in 1981. President Reagan passed something similar. His domestic policies wasn't able to kick in by the next midterm, and he ended up losing a ton of seats in the next midterm. So this is huge that Trump has thrown his support behind the House GOP budget strategy. So let's just take a read, and then we'll kind of go over some details. The House and Senate are doing a spectacular job of working together as one unified and unbeatable team. However, unlike the Lindsey Graham version of the very important legislation currently being discussed, the House resolution implements my full America First agenda. Everything, not just parts of it. We need both chambers to pass the House budget to kickstart the reconciliation process and move all of our priorities to the concept of one big, beautiful bill. It will, without question, make America great again. Now, and we've talked about this before, I think you could get through. The bigger the bill is going to be, the more pork there's going to be in it. That's just how it works in D.C. I think Trump is going to be able to cut out a lot of this crap, especially since it's going through the reconciliation process. But ultimately, they don't have a lot of votes to lose, especially in the House. They can lose up to, 3 in the Senate and up to, 4 or 5 in the House? And that's saying that no Democrats jump party lines and vote for the spending proposal. But that could be, there's going to be more pork the bigger the bill is, but also if you have two split up bills, there's a chance that you don't get through the second bill. You can only pass through 3 reconciliation bills in a fiscal year. That's it. Taxes, spending, and the budget, the debt ceiling. Those are the only 3 things that you can pass through for reconciliation, where it has to be on a simple majority. You don't have to have 60 senators in the Senate to get the bill passed. But we know that this is coming just a day before the GOP-led Senate planned to vote on a budget resolution that would kickstart the process of pushing Trump's policies. The process of pushing Trump's policy priorities. But the Senate blueprint is much, much more narrow than the House's. It focuses on immigration enforcement, expanding energy production, but doesn't call for the extension of the Trump tax cuts. Obviously, that's what we said, the 2-bill solution versus the 1-bill solution. And we already kind of read over this here. But Trump's comments really come as the House GOP leaders and other senior Republicans have been personally lobbying Trump in recent days to go public with his support, which I think is a good thing. He did a good job of kind of staying back, holding, he kind of reserved himself, and now it's kind of pushing where he feels it's going to be best. He wasn't preemptive about it. premature. That's the word I'm looking. He wasn't premature about it. He didn't jump out there, endorse a plan, then have to kind of reel it back if it wasn't the best. He let the two individual processes play out, heard both sides of it. Now he's pushing where things are hot. That's exactly what we need. And House Republican leaders have also been whipping rank and file members this week, and a number of moderate Republicans signaled they are undecided because of concerns over potential Medicaid cuts. One of those concerned GOP lawmakers said. The hope among top Republicans is that Trump's public support will help get the holdouts in line. Yeah, I hope so. I'd like to see more of what those planned Medicaid cuts could be. Are they just flat out cuts? Does it have to do with curbing waste and fraud? I haven't seen those and haven't read over it, so I can't really make a comment when it comes to actual cuts to Medicaid at this point. Let's see, Republicans in the White House and on Capitol Hill have been debating for months whether to pass one bill or to break it up into two. Let's see. This comes one day after the Senate voted 50 to 47 to advance Senator Graham's resolution budget. It was a party line vote with Rand Paul, the only Republican to vote against it. Let's see, later this week where senators can propose amendments to it. Let's see. Graham had pitched his slimmed-down budget measure as a way to immediately deliver on Trump's need for more money to enforce immigration law and carry out his mass deportation plans. He's aligned with Senator John Thune on the need for a two-track plan. I just am not okay. I think we need it all in one. Like, it's hard to decide, like, which one is the one that you push down the road. Energy is going to help bring down costs. Immigration, follow through on campaign promises. The taxes, that's going to be a big one because we need to know how that's going to affect. We know at the end of the year they're going to expire. Some parts of it, and it's going to be a process because not every part of those Trump tax cuts are going to become permanent. Some of them we're going to renew for another 5 or 10 years or whatever the number is. And you kind of have to go through with a fine-tooth comb this whole process that they did, 8 years ago. Do it all over again, determine where we should make further cuts, and then determining, who's on board, where's our support with the current measure, where do we need to make adjustments to make sure we can get enough votes. Vice President J.D. Vance will join Senate Republicans on Capitol Hill on Wednesday for a lunch to discuss the next steps. The Senate is still on track for a vote on its budget resolution this week, but we'll see what comes out of the Vance meeting, said Senate Majority Whip John Barrasso of Wyoming. The House GOP source familiar with the debate expressed concerns that if the Senate passes its budget this week, it would jam the House and give momentum to the Senate strategy. Last week, the House voted along party lines to approve a massive budget resolution that calls for more spending on immigration and the military, alongside a $4.5 trillion in tax cuts that are partially offset by unspecified spending cuts. It also includes a $4 trillion increase in the debt limit. The House GOP leaders are planning to put that budget on the floor for a House vote when lawmakers return next week, now that Trump has endorsed it at this point. Some Republican senators are surprised that Trump threw his hat behind this, Thune telling reporters that he didn't see this coming. And let's see, another close ally, Mark Wayne Mullen of Oklahoma, said he likes the idea of one big, beautiful, glamorous bill, but the Republicans need a plan B if the House strategy collapses, which I agree. Yeah, you got to have a plan B, but ultimately we need to push where it's hot, and where it's hot is with plan A, one big, beautiful bill right now. And we know how the state of it right now is not going to be the state of it in 2 weeks from now or even a month from now. Things are going to change. There's going to be amendments that are proposed that are going to be voted on. Things are going to change. Let's just get to the final bill and see what's going on. Let's see, but Trump threw another wrench into congressional Republicans' efforts when he told Fox News that his agenda wouldn't include Medicaid cuts. Medicare, Medicaid, none of that stuff is going to be touched. The House Republican budget blueprint calls on the Energy and Commerce Committee to find $880 billion in deficit reduction spending. Spending less on Medicaid was seen internally as a key component on hitting that target. If there's waste and fraud, I'm okay with cutting it, but we just got to see what are the actual implications of where the cuts are. But we all know we're not. There's two ways that you can go forward from this. If we really want to cut the deficit, we either need to have major restructuring to the entitlement programs, which is Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Major restructuring there. Because, you can cut discretionary funding or spending, but ultimately, you're not going to get the debt really under control until you start to restructure these entitlement programs, because those are going to be the behemoths that are going to snowball and take over, especially over the next probably 2 decades. We're going to see a lot of baby boomers retiring, a lot of people leaving the workforce that are going to be on Social Security, and that's going to be a big entitlement program. So restructuring there, but also outgrowing it. We need the American economy to be jump-started, so our GDP, we can outgrow our debt. Because guess what? If we outgrow our debt, the government's going to get in more revenues. So if we have higher growth, we don't need to, let's say the economy is, let's say the economy, just for numbers, is $100 trillion, let's just say $30 trillion in GDP. And 10% of all GDP money that, or GDP that is in the economy in the year, actually flows through and is received by the federal government in the form of taxes and other revenue. That $3 trillion there, let's say that's 10%. You can raise taxes to, let's say, 20%, so then you can bring in $6 million on that, or $6 trillion on that same $30 trillion. Or you can grow the GDP, where let's say you can grow the GDP to $40 trillion in GDP. And now without raising anybody's taxes, you are now able, you've increase the amount of revenue you're bringing in by 33%. So there's kind of 2 ways to look at it. Entitlement cuts, outgrowing the debt. Obviously, I think more people are going to be on the side of outgrowing the debt and allowing our GDP to grow faster than our debt is. But also that means getting discretionary spending under control. Like, I bet you we can still cut $1 trillion or $2 trillion from our budget every year with DOGE, with really cutting down on some of this bullcrap that we're spending money on. And that's going to be a big component to it, is really getting the debt to your really debt to income ratio under control, and then to really make the next stride to start paying down our debt or to reduce it. We either need it to stay stagnant or we need to reduce it. Stagnant is if our economy is growing, and reduce it if our economy is not growing as fast as we want to. But let's see. Democrats have responded to the strategy to combat the Republican budget reconciliation push, vowing the party will be unified around the attacking effort as a ploy to give tax cuts to the wealthy by cutting middle-class programs. They want to give their billionaire buddy tax breaks, and the working families of America are paying for it. No, Chuck. No, Chuck, you're confused, Chuck. Chuck, that was the loan forgiveness program that you wanted working class Americans to pay $50 billion a year on the low end to fund gender study majors and lesbian dance theory majors going to college. No, that's you, Chuck. Don't get it confused. Democrats are going to offer an amendment about prohibiting tax cuts for the wealthy and protecting benefits. Schumer summed up one of the amendments as, if they cut even $1 from Medicaid, no one whose income is above $1 million can get a tax deduction. And I'm okay with that. We don't need to. It's like across the board, taxes are going to get cut for the middle class too. Here's the thing. Trump, he's closing really the investment fund loophole, where if someone owns an investment fund, they're able to take about 20% of their profits, and that's that 20% that they basically use to pay themselves as tax at capital gains rates instead of income taxes. So Trump is doing things, and then also you look at the sports team loophole, where basically the sports team owners are able to buy a sports team and then write it off on their taxes for years and years and years to come. So Trump is closing some loopholes that are going to hurt wealthy individuals. So I don't, the Democrats' shots are not valid whatsoever. But obviously, some big news that we have here. President Trump throwing his support behind the House GOP budget strategy. We're going to see how this all plays out. Ultimately, though, we need to get energy, immigration, taxes, and a budget pushed through by May. Maybe the beginning of June. We need to have this push through to kickstart our economy, to get Trump's domestic agenda implemented. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments. Are you more on the one bill side, one big beautiful bill, or on two bills? Let me know what your thoughts are. And as always, like, share, subscribe, and until next time, folks.